Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm as always your host, Tiger Paul Craven. Got my buddy Jordan Bowman in the back. He will be joining us momentarily. But before we get into tonight's show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Also, hit that like button so that you can come hang out with us anytime we go live. Of course, we always do this show every Thursday, 7 p.m. And then, of course, the post-game lives that me and Jordan do as well. So thank you guys so much for showing up. We do have a special guest tonight, but I won't tell you who that is quite yet. Shout out to everybody getting in here right now. But let's go ahead and get the show started. Bring on my buddy Jordan. Jordan, how you doing? How's your week been? It's been 2 good weeks for the Clemson Tigers. So what a difference 2 weeks makes. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I got to apologize for the little bait and switch I pulled in the comment section. It was quite a surprise when I was prepping for the show and you popped on in. So I was like, you know what, let's just make it a surprise. And I had said in the comment section that you weren't going to make it, and now we're here. So that was pretty funny. But no, my week has been really, really good. Just these last couple of weeks, it's been nice to kind of feel like there's some positive momentum for the Tigers heading in to this last stretch of games. And, this game on Saturday is really important. Especially consider you have a better peace of mind going into this game, knowing that you saw this team put together probably one of the more complete performances last Saturday. So that was really good and really nice to see for this team. And, just considering everything that's transpired this year. So, I'm feeling good. And we'll talk about North Carolina later in the show. But we do have a special guest for you guys tonight. So I'm really excited to bring him on.
We got him in here. All right, there we go.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Ryan? So those of you that don't know, this is Ryan Cantor. He is he works for TigerNet. He does a lot of articles for them over there, but he also has his own YouTube channel. You can search him by his name, Ryan Cantor. Does a ton of Clemson football content. Does great videos. I'm subscribed to him. So I encourage everybody in here to go ahead and head over to Ryan Cantor's page as soon as we're done here tonight. Show him some love. You guys subscribe to him. He's got a lot of knowledge about Clemson football. He's got a lot of great content that he posts there, so you guys don't miss out on it. Check him out. Ryan, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I've been writing for TigerNet for, man, I don't remember when I started, 5-6 years, a long time. Shaking the Southland, started with them all the way back in 2013. And I started a YouTube channel this year, and it's doing, it's grown faster than I expected. We're up to 600 subscribers. It's been a lot of fun just to do something different. And right now I'm just looking forward. This is my first live show, and I'm looking forward to just kind of taking a reprieve from all the stuff, all the work stuff, all the life stuff during the day, and just talk some football, some Clemson guys. So it'll be fun.
Absolutely. I feel you, man. And for those of you guys that are watching, me and Ryan actually did a hit on the UNC preview earlier this week on Monday night. So make sure you head on over to his channel. It was a lot of fun. It was only, it's a short watch. So, just take, 20 minutes of your time, and it's a really good video. So make sure you guys check that out as well. But yeah, before we get into this North Carolina preview, I kind of want us all to kind of give our final thoughts on what we thought about last Saturday and what this means for this team heading into Saturday, and just kind of your takeaways from that in the Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, man. The Georgia Tech game was, for me, kind of, just a great time to be a Clemson fan, right? It was really fun to watch this team go out there and execute on both sides of the football for once, for pretty much an entire game, outside of, a drive here or there that you can nitpick. So for me, just, from a fan's perspective, just sitting back watching this Clemson team, it was a breath of fresh air to just see how this team went out, executed, and pretty much dominated a team from start to finish. And that's kind of my huge takeaway. There was a lot of questions heading into kind of the Notre Dame game. Would this Clemson team roll over? Would they quit? Their season was kind of over in a sense of what they were playing for. The 10-win streak was over, yada, yada, yada. You guys heard all the clippings and the national media types and everything, just kind of piling on Clemson. And, you saw it in the Notre Dame game, and then it was even more pronounced in this Georgia Tech game, that this team is not going to quit. They don't have quit in them. They are going to come out and play for pride. And it was, you expect nothing less of a Dabo Swinney team. But I think even the most diehard of us Clemson fans had questions in the back of our mind heading into that Notre Dame game and this Georgia Tech game of how would this team respond. And they did so in a very they put an exclamation point on it this past Saturday.
Ryan, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the defense stood out. I guess three thoughts. One is the defense. I'm a believer in Wes Goodwin. I'm a believer in these young guys. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to play for aside from what you said, pride, right? So what I'm looking for more than anything is, are the guys who are going to be in a bigger role next year, are they ready? How ready are they? How good could they be? And the guys, the secondary was so bad last year. They're good this year. They're going to lose Wiggins and Sheridan Jones, and they're, and probably Makuba. They might not be any worse. They might be better next year. So that was like my biggest takeaway is I'm looking ahead to next year already, and I'm encouraged. So that was one. The other two are, I was really curious to see what they would do with Shipley now that he's back. I was really hoping they would continue to give maybe 60-40 kind of the carries to Maffa and use Shipley a little bit more creatively. That's pretty much exactly what they did. I was kind of hoping they would have done that a month ago, but I was still encouraged nonetheless to see it now, to see Shipley got 3 catches, 30 yards. That's how you got to get him the extra touches. And I really want Maffa to be back next year. I don't want him. It was honestly a little ridiculous how few carries he was getting earlier in the year. So I want to see him get a lot of carries down the stretch. I absolutely do not want to see him transfer. I expect both of them to be back. It's hard for running backs that aren't super, super, super elite to go really early in the draft. So I think there's a decent shot. The little NIL money, they're both back. I really, really want Moffitt back. So I really want to see him get his fair share of carries. And then the last thing was Cade Klubnik. You don't talk about it because Clemson beat Notre Dame, but he didn't look that great. They didn't really trust him. They didn't try to, give him any leash. He looked better against Georgia Tech. He didn't look, super elite, but the announcers said it on 2 or 3 different occasions when he'd make, a really jaw-dropping play. Wow, there it is. That's why you don't quit on him. That's why you can't get too discouraged. So I still believe in him. Even though this year hasn't been super great for him, I still really believe in him. So 3 different things that were really encouraging, and that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with all of that, it coalesced into the Tigers' most complete performance of the game, and it's something that we've been waiting to see. And I think one of the biggest things was winning the turnover battle for the second straight week. I mean, I think Clemson has been +4 in the turnover margin the last 2 games, and they finally broke even on the season, so that was great. And so you're starting to see this team start to take care of the football a little bit more, and not just that. The turnovers are still happening on occasion, but it's not at the frequency that it was happening, and it's not coming at crucial times as they were earlier in the year. Because I think the volume of turnovers you could probably overcome, but it was the timeliness of them in some very key moments in some of Clemson's previous games, and you're not really seeing that. I think that the team has responded in the key moments of the game, and I think that's a sign of a team that's starting to figure some things out. It was just a really good performance. I mean, you mentioned Will Shipley and Phil Maffa and kind of how they used them in that game. I think that's something we were frankly hoping to see for more of the season. And heading into the year, we thought that was going to be a strength, and it still was, but with the inconsistency on the offensive line, with Shipley not being 100%, it never really coalesced into that dynamic rushing attack that maybe we hope. But I think we're starting to see that now. And I think it's giving defenses a lot to think about. And it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off of Cade, who obviously is still a young and inexperienced quarterback, when it's all said and done, especially when you compare him to some of his peers. Honestly, they're not doing that great either. The quarterback class that he was in, Drew Allard over at Penn State, he's had his struggles. Malik Murphy is playing now, but due to injury, and he's kind of been up and down. It hasn't been an overly, talented or overly successful quarterback class up to this point. So I think, giving Cade some time, I think Clemson fans are starting to realize that, he's not Deshaun Watson, he's not Trevor Lawrence, he's not going to come in and be that right away. But he shows those flashes of during games where you think, okay, we have to just, we have to take the pressure off of him, let him learn, and things will be okay in the long run. Because I still think Garrett Riley knows what he's doing, and I think this hire will ultimately pay dividends. It just didn't come, about the way we hoped it would this year. But again, still a great win for Georgia, for Clemson, and obviously it springboards a lot of momentum from the last 2 weeks into this game on Saturday. So let's kind of dig into it. All right. So I'm trying to get this banner up. I think I'm running on a delay, which is probably why.
Yeah, you're a little bit lagged. But yeah, man, this Georgia Tech or this North Carolina team coming in. Wow, what a team, right? 3:30 in the Valley. First time North Carolina's been in the Valley in quite some time. It's been a while since the Tar Heels have been able to beat Clemson, but I mean, let me tell you what, this is a team that can spell trouble for the Tigers. As good as we've been talking about how the defense has played in the secondary and how encouraged we are with a lot of these young guys that will probably get a lot of playing time in this game as well. Starting with the North Carolina side of the ball, and everybody knows Drake May and Tez Walker and all these guys. But the thing that's truly that stands out to me anyway about this North Carolina team specifically this year is their ability to run the ball. That's not something that they had in spades last year. They were more one-dimensional, kind of put everything on Drake May, and if he didn't get it done, they didn't have a lot of answers. This year, that's not really the case. They can absolutely, if you want to just drop back into coverage and force them to run the ball, they can absolutely get it done. And when you look at a Clemson defense this year, we've been pretty good against the run, but there's been points in time this season. You think about against a Miami and things like that, where we really gave up a lot of yards, specifically in the second half and in that fourth quarter game against Miami. You've seen some explosive plays given up by this defense in the running game, but overall we've done pretty well. But this is an offense, and you guys can tell me what you think. This is an offense in my mind that they could spell a lot of problems for this Clemson defense. This Clemson defense is going to have to come play. They're going to have to pressure Drake May. They cannot let him sit back there and get comfortable. The defensive backs are going to have to bring it, and the defensive line is going to have to fill their run gaps.
Yeah, I'm on a really bad delay. Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to make this really interesting. Ryan, what are your initial impressions of this, especially this North Carolina offense? We'll talk about the defense, but I think this is obviously the strength of the team. Like, what are some of your impressions, when you've watched this North Carolina team play?
Yeah, so I mean, what makes it a little bit more fun is that their strength is going up against Clemson's strength. So we just saw Clemson's DBs look excellent. Let's turn up the difficulty level again a little bit, or not a little bit, a good bit, right? Let's see how they fare against the best passing offense, the best scoring offense, the best total offense in the ACC. Drake May's got 3,145 yards on the year. They played 10 games, so that's 314 and a half yards per game passing. Pretty darn good. And it's not just racking up totals against weak teams. It's actually a little bit the opposite. He had 414 against Minnesota, 440 against Cuse. So those push up the total. But generally speaking, you look up and down the game log, it's 300 like pretty much every time. So that's a big time test. They also have the elite outside receiver that we've been craving for 3 years or so that we've been talking about, and they got him through the transfer portal this year. I'm talking about Des Walker, who was not allowed to play for the first 4 games of the year, but he's played 6. And in 6 games, he has exactly 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that's easy math too. Pretty darn good. We would kill for a guy who can go up and get it and win on the outside. He's 6'3". Was at North Carolina Central for a year, but it was the COVID year, didn't even play. Then was at Kent State for 2 years. And then now he's kind of back home. He's from Charlotte. So he's a redshirt junior. So you got an elite quarterback, the best in the conference. You got an elite wide receiver, at least one of the best in the conference. So it's a great test. Chip Lindsey is their offensive coordinator, and he's a Broyles Award finalist. They have like 50 of them, but nonetheless. So elite offense, and we're going to see how good the secondary really is. I'm a believer, like I said, but it's fun to get a test now, especially in a game where the stakes aren't really that high, given where the season is. So let's learn about this team. I want to see young guys out there as much as possible. And last point, Tiger Paw Craven, what you were saying, they can run the ball. They actually run it more than they pass it, 51.3% run percentage. And Amari and Hampton, their star running backs, averaging 6 yards a carry. So a balanced offense, man. This is an elite offense. The defense obviously has problems. I'm sure we'll get to that, but this is a playoff caliber offense.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe they're 10th nationally in yards per play. So, it's not like they're just racking up, but they're not running a bunch of plays and racking up yardage. I mean, they are an efficient, balanced offense. And we said this about Georgia Tech last week, but this is a step up. And this is statistically the best offense Clemson has played all year. Notre Dame is pretty up there in some of the metrics, but North Carolina has them beat. And so that's what's going to make this. That's what's going to make this tough. And this is the best quarterback. I mean, this guy is going to be the second quarterback taken in the draft, and in a lot of other years would be the first. If Caleb Williams wasn't such a generational talent. We saw him last year, and I think that's going to be the thing in a lot of Clemson fans' minds is like, oh well, we handled them last year. But I think something that Dabo Swinney said earlier in the week really, it did. I think it resonated a little bit because He said, well, when you go back and watch that game, defensively, we gave up yards. They moved the ball on us. We did really well in the red zone. We got a couple turnovers. One of them being a pick six, which led to points. And so this North Carolina offense is efficient. Now, obviously, we mentioned Chip Lindsey. He was not the offensive coordinator last year, but he's done a really, really good job so far this year at putting his guys in positions to succeed. And you mentioned Tez Walker, and the season he's had in the short amount of time he's played, he's already their leading receiver. And they still have really talented weapons otherwise. J.J. Jones is having a really productive year. Bryson Nesbitt, their tight end, is phenomenal. They might have the best tight end room in the conference, in all honesty, between Nesbitt, Copenhaver, Kamari Morales. They really like to use their tight ends, and all three of them have been involved in the passing game. So, I mean, again, this is a balance, and we already mentioned the run game. So this is just a really balanced offense, and it's going to be tough for this Clemson defense. The young DBs answered the call last week against Georgia Tech, but this is a step up. So I'm really interested to see how they play, and getting Barrett Carter back would be a really, really nice shot in the arm for this defense. Obviously, he didn't play with the ankle injury. He wasn't listed in the unavailable report until he was never listed, but we saw him in street clothes before the game, and okay, we're like, all right. But he had rolled his ankle, pretty shortly before, and so he wasn't able to go. So hopefully we get him back. But yeah, this is going to be a tough test for this Clemson defense. So, what do you guys? Before we get to the defense, what are some key players that you guys think need to play well in order for this team to win?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the highlights from the Georgia Tech game, I want to see these cornerbacks, presumably Nate Wiggins versus Tez Walker is one of the best kind of NFL matchups in the game, right? We got an elite receiver against elite cornerback. How's that going to go? And obviously the battles on the offensive and defensive lines both ways. Obviously, offensive line for North Carolina has been good enough to power this offense. And Clemson's had an elite defensive line. Can they stop the run? I mean, we're used to you completely stop the run, aside from one big play here or there, but basically they can't run with any efficiency. So they become one-dimensional. Can they continue to do that, as it's kind of been Clemson's bread and butter? So that'll be another thing to watch.
Yeah, certainly. You guys kind of, hit all the high points, really. This is just a huge test, and you got to think about, what's the best way that you can shut down this North Carolina offense. And to me, against a quarterback like Drake May, you got to make him uncomfortable. So you're going to have to come after Drake May. And I know he's a guy that is really good under pressure. He's a guy that's still going to make plays. He's still going to make his fair share of plays, but you just can't afford to let him sit back there. So the defensive line as a whole is going to be key. But specifically those ends and rushing the passer, the D tackles are going to be very important in the run fits. You cannot let them, if they start having success on the ground against this Clemson defense, like consistent running plays where they're getting, 4 or 5 yards a pop, it's going to be a long day for this Clemson Tiger defense. So it's definitely going to start with shutting down that run, trying to make North Carolina as one-dimensional as you can. And then, like Ryan just said, Nate Wiggins is going to have to bring his A game. He's going to be paired up with their best receiver. And if you know anything about Nate Wiggins, he's going to welcome it. He wants nothing but the best out there. He's gonna welcome that challenge with open arms. I'm pretty confident in his ability. You saw, this is probably going to be Clemson's biggest test outside of late November or late September when we faced up against FSU. This is kind of the most high-powered offense that we played since then. So huge test for the Tigers. Those young guys, I worry about them a little bit. I'm confident in their ability. I think they're riding high with a lot of confidence, which is good. but they're definitely going to have to bring it against this North Carolina team, and they're going to be tested far more than they were last weekend. And I think forcing some turnovers, you're going to have to, because as you mentioned, Jordan, North Carolina moved the ball pretty easily against us in that ACC championship game. The difference was the defense bowed up in the red zone, and we forced turnovers, like you said. And it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have to do that. North Carolina, they're going to get yards. This isn't going to be a game where you look up and you held North Carolina, to less than 200 yards total offense. I just don't.
Yeah, it's not going to be like it's not going to be like Haynes King when he had like 1 yard passing in the first half. Like I don't expect that.
Yeah, it was some crazy stat. Like it's not gonna be that. So, they're gonna have to. The defense is gonna have to pick its moments when to bow up, when to force turnovers, and that's gonna be key in winning this game.
Yeah, hey, I thought Dabo's comments were actually really great, really humble for him to acknowledge. We complain about how we had bad luck earlier in the year and how we'd outgain everyone, seemingly every game, every loss in particular. We'd always get more yards. Yeah. UNC's yards to points was just way off in that ACC championship game. Not to say Clemson didn't deserve to win. Absolutely not saying that. But, you play that game 10 times. I don't know if it's that bad of a blowout every time. Mm-hmm. A little weird to me that Mac Brown said he didn't prepare for Cade Klubnik when it seemed fairly obvious that might happen. Hop on Twitter and figure that out. So if that's really why, that seems like a very, very bad coaching mistake on his part. But I do think that there's some bad luck in that game for them. Clemson maybe wins a closer game. I expect this one to be closer than that. Plus, I think North Carolina might be a little bit better than they were last year. They look really good.
100%. One last thing before we get to the defense, I think one of the things that I really liked from Wes Goodwin last week, and really the last 2 weeks, is kind of the adjustments, especially the early adjustments. I think something that we were kind of frustrated with last year was kind of the slowness to make changes. I think in these last 2 weeks, you've seen them make, especially against the run. Georgia Tech was kind of gashing Clemson early and on some of those stretch runs and to the outside, kind of taking advantage of some of the depth concerns that they had at the defensive end. I thought they did a really good job of kind of shutting that down. And obviously Notre Dame did the same thing 2 weeks ago. They were hitting Clemson early for some chunk plays, and then they really weren't able to do much else for the rest of the game. So I think that's another thing that I'm looking to see. It's okay if North Carolina, they have good coaches too. They get film too, so they're gonna be able to hit some plays. But it's really about how this team adjusts. And I think West has so far done a good job. They've done a good job, and so that's kind of what I'm looking for on Saturday. So let's kind of transition and talk about the side of the ball for this North Carolina team that I think obviously is not the best and obviously not their strength, and that would be the defense. They are a little bit better than Georgia Tech, so it's not saying much, but they are statistically a little bit better than Georgia Tech, and they're statistically actually a lot better than they were last year, but it still has not been a very good defense. And especially the last couple of weeks, it feels like there's been sort of a regression there. It gave up, I know it was a double overtime game. It gave up 45 points to a Duke team without Riley Leonard and starting a true freshman quarterback. I mean, it's not great. They had already lost to at home to Georgia Tech. I believe Georgia Tech put up 41 points. Haynes King threw all over them. And they lost that head scratcher to Virginia as well. So, this is a team that is, I think, at times they show kind of the flashes of the talent that they've recruited, especially along the defensive line. I think Kamen Rucker is one of the best pass rushers in the ACC. Miles Murphy probably played his best game of his career last Saturday, and not Clemson Miles Murphy. It's kind of funny. He plays defensive tackle, and he was in the same class as Clemson's Miles Murphy. So that's kind of a fun little fact. But he played really well last week, and they have a lot of experience and guys that have played a lot of football along the front. But I think where they can be got is, and where they've been got in the past has been that secondary. So, Brian, what are kind of your thoughts when you look at this North Carolina defense?
Yeah, it's not good. And honestly, that to me makes it more interesting. Obviously you'll see better football when UNC has the ball and it's their elite offense versus Clemson's elite defense. But I'm interested to see how does scoring 24 points or something like that is not acceptable against this defense. Clemson needs to be able to get into the 30s. I think they probably need to get in the 30s to win, but also just to kind of give you signs of progress. You mentioned that their stats are better this year than last year, and that may be true, but it's kind of skewed. In their first 5 games of the year, they only allowed 19 points per game. And their last 5, which includes a game against Campbell, they've allowed 32 points per game. So they've completely fallen back to where they were. And I know there was double overtime in those, but there was also double overtime game against App State where there were a lot of points scored. So the defense has just totally regressed. I think we see Clemson. I'm fairly confident they could maybe not do quite what they did against Georgia Tech, but they should be able to do something similar. 2 other stats for you. UNC is allowing 154 rushing yards per game. That's 77th nationally. They're even worse against the pass, 235 and a half passing yards per game allowed. That's 83. And the thing that I've been watching with Cade is the yards per attempt has been just abysmal. Even when he has a seemingly decent game, it's just, short little passes that are inefficient and just not explosive. And that's not all on him. Clemson needs to get more explosive players, but they're allowing UNC is allowing 6.87 yards per attempt passing, which is pretty bad on their part. Pretty good opportunity for Cade.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the thing that I'm looking to see, because this defense is, as we've said, I mean, the stats show it. They are not nearly as good, but they have talented pieces. But I think it's about finding the same kind of success and coming in with the same kind of attitude that you did in the Georgia Tech game. And it would be great for this team to start fast. I think that's the one thing that we haven't really seen from this team yet. Last Saturday, it was the fake punt. It was the early, Georgia Tech was kind of stuffing the run a little bit early, that kind of stuff. I would like to see this team come in with a little bit of a better, maybe a better opening script, a little bit come in with their head in the game a little bit more. It feels like this team just takes a couple of drives before they're really like, okay, now it's time to play. So I want to see this team. If this team even were just to go down the field and get a field goal, I feel like that would be, feel like obviously we would like touchdowns, but just seeing this team move the ball early would be good, because this North Carolina offense is better than the Georgia Tech team you faced last week. And so if it does get into a track meet and maybe your defense doesn't answer the call, you want to be able to establish that success and that confidence early. Tiger Paw Craven, what do you think?
Yeah, man. Look, I'm just going to echo a lot of the stuff that you guys just said. But this isn't going to be a game where you look up in the fourth quarter and it's 42-7, right? Like it was last week against Georgia Tech. Okay. We've already talked about the North Carolina offense. I do think they will put up points. To Ryan's point, this Clemson offense needs to pick up where they left off last week. They need that efficiency, right? They were ahead of schedule early on downs. They were staying ahead of schedule. They were running the ball effectively. They were passing the ball effectively. There were no real downfield shots per se, no explosive plays, but they stayed on schedule. They stayed in rhythm, and that helped them play with tempo and really kept that Georgia Tech defense off balance. And I think if you do, some of those things against this North Carolina defense, they're very vulnerable. Let's just face it, they're not a good defense. They're giving up, close to 300 yards a game against opposing offenses. They're not, super efficient. They're not really good at one particular thing. They're kind of just all around, just not a solid defense. I think the one thing is they can get pressure at times, so that doesn't bode well for a Clemson team that, for whatever reason, we continue to play musical chairs along the offensive line. One lineup that works against Notre Dame doesn't work against Georgia Tech somehow. We got to trot out new people, and eventually we got it figured out. And the offense played well, and all those things. But that's a concern for me. It's just the inconsistency along Clemson's offensive line. You never know who's going to show up week to week along Clemson's offensive line, and that's a worry because this North Carolina team defense, they're going to come after Cade. They're going to try to rattle them because that's what I would do. And they have had some success at getting pressure on quarterbacks this season. So, but the plays are going to be there for Clemson. If Clemson doesn't score, 30 plus points against this team, I agree with Ryan. That's an unacceptable performance. You're going to have to help your defense out. Your defense is going to have their hands full all game long. It's going to be a long Saturday for the defense, whether they're super successful or, they're struggling a bit. It's still going to be a long day for the defense. So if you can help them and play complimentary football and put up some points, to your point, Jordan, just going out there and scoring, setting the tone. First drive of the game, go out there, put some points on the board, even if it's just a field goal. I think that would go a long way setting the tone, and that's going to energize that defense, right? The defense just needs a little bit from the offense. This Clemson defense is elite. They are a very good defense. They just need a little bit of juice from that offense, and believe me, they'll take off, and Clemson will win this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but they will win this game, I believe.
Yeah. And before we get into our score predictions, I do want to hit on the third phase of the game that we don't often talk about, but I think it's kind of relevant here because I think it's a tale of really opposite sides of the spectrum at this point. I think Clemson's special teams has played pretty well the last couple of weeks. And overall, they've been good outside of the field goal kicking. It's really strange. I look at Clemson special teams and North Carolina special teams, and it's kind of the inverse. I think Clemson has been a solid special teams unit outside of their field goal kicking. Punting has been really good. They haven't been dynamic in the return game, but I think recently we've seen them be able to flip the field in some key moments. This North Carolina special teams unit is awful outside of their field goal kicker. They've graded out as one of the worst in the country. I believe they're bottom 10 as far as their PFF grade is concerned. This is not a good special teams unit. Their kicker is Noah Burnett. He's really good. He's been solid, but beyond that, they've given up some returns. Their coverage unit hasn't been great, and they're not super dynamic in the return game either. So I think this could be a kind of a place where, I think Clemson has won the hidden yardage battle in recent weeks. I think this is another spot where you could absolutely use some of that. So, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I think it's, overall, this matchup is good versus good, weakness versus weakness, I guess.
Yeah,
we should say.
Pretty much.
And that makes for a really interesting matchup. And of course, in Clemson being at home, there's a lot, and it being senior day for these Tigers, there's a lot of storylines here. And especially since, North Carolina hasn't beat Clemson since 2010, I believe.
Yeah, 2010.
And obviously they played a few times since they played last year in the ACC championship game. North Carolina is trying to preserve their mathematical chance to possibly make the ACC championship game. There's a lot that goes into this, but let's kind of give our score predictions. Ryan, I know you are a busy man, and I don't want to hold you too long. So let's first I want to look at the Vegas spread for a second. Clemson is, I think at this point, depending on where you look, they're as much as a 7.5 point favorite in this game, over under 58.5. I've seen some 7s, some 6.5s, but yeah, I think the money is coming in Clemson's direction so far. So that's going to make for a really interesting betting game, because I feel like this game could go a lot of different ways. But it seems like the public and Vegas seems to like where Clemson is trending and how they match up in this game. So let's go ahead and give our score predictions. I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I'm feeling a 35. I kind of want to go a little bit higher, but I just this team scoring 40 without help from the defense is not always. It's kind of hard to predict. But I'll be conservative. I'll go 35-27. I think Clemson slightly covers the number. But I think it's going to be a competitive game. It's still won. They still won by a score. And I think the defense does just enough, gets enough stops, and Clemson will be productive enough on offense to come out with a victory at home.
Well, my prediction, Jordan, from being on my show, but I have Clemson 35-28. So the line was 6.5. The line was 7. I guess now that would be UNC with the points, but I think Vegas is usually pretty accurate. So I think that's about right. 35 on this defense feels about right. I think if you get too much, if you're, let's say, below 31, that's probably a pretty bad performance by the offense. I think they do well. Again, to the Tiger Paul Craven's point, we have no idea what we're going to get from this offensive line. Any individual player could be fantastic or horrible. Against Notre Dame, Trent Howard was awesome. He had a 50.8 PFF grade, which is really, really bad. You want to be in the 70s. So he's graded terribly against Georgia Tech out of nowhere, right? Mitchell Mays comes in. He tends to struggle. He was better. You have no idea. Tristan Lee was so good, and then he was so bad against Georgia Tech. And then they put Sadler at left guard. Now he's good at left guard. Who knew he could even play left guard? Maybe he should have been doing that all along. I just have no idea what to ever expect. Blake Miller a couple games ago was just horrible. He had a 78.3 PFF grade against Georgia Tech, which is like incredible, best on the team. I was starting to get negative about, is he really our right tackle of the future? Maybe he is. I don't know. So that's where I'm looking. We're not going to have the same 5 guys next year that we have this year. I mean, obviously Putnam's leaving, but you got Tate coming back from injury, maybe as soon as the Palmetto Bowl. You've got Walker Parks coming back. They're both presumably starters next year. I don't know that you feel really confident about any of the other guys currently playing are definitely going to be above average players for you next year. I'd love to see, let's say, a great game out of Blake Miller, right? To start putting it together. I just want some guys that can be confident next year. Phil Maffa is maybe our most explosive player on Clemson.
I would say so. I mean, at least a running back. I might maybe lean towards Tyler Brown because of his quick, his short area quickness and kind of has that burst. But as far as the running backs are concerned, I mean, Maffa has been the more explosive running back on the year.
I think those two are your choices. And a few final thoughts before I get out of here. Listen to an interview with Kelly Gramlich, Eric McLean, and Tyler Brown. What a likable guy! What a fun guy to cheer for. Saying he grew up a Clemson fan. From the time he was a baby, his dad cried when he got the offer, and then he had an insane catch. So he's just a fun guy to watch. So again, sort of on the same theme. I want to see young players who are going to be part of getting Clemson back to where they were basically pre-COVID. Let's get back to that. Who are going to be the players who are going to be part of that? I think Phil Maffa, hopefully next year, is a big part of that. I think Tyler Brown could be a big part of that. Who on this offensive line? I think obviously you hope and think Cade over the next 1 to 2 seasons, a big part of that. So those are the guys I want to see. I do think Clemson wins. I think it's more of a toss-up than we'd like to really say, but I'll go Clemson 35-28. Getting a win, and then you got the Palmetto Bowl, the one that really matters.
Yeah, 100%. Ryan, again, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. For those of you guys listening, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, this is Ryan Cantor over at TigerNet. Make sure you check his workout over there, and also type in his name. Right, just his name, Ryan Cantor, in YouTube. You'll find his YouTube channel. Does a lot of great content on his channel. Me and him did a video on Monday night for the UNC game as well. So make sure you guys check that out. Ryan, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, I know everyone watching is already subscribed here. If not, do it, and then jump over. If you don't like me, jump over just to watch Jordan break down UNC on my channel. We did a short, maybe 20-something minute video that I think you'll enjoy. So thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for being on.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, everybody go check out Ryan Cantor, man. Like I said at the top of the show, he does a lot of great Clemson content. He's really plugged into Clemson. Maybe has a bit more access than, some of the rest of us here, because of, working for TNet and maybe being around Clemson a little bit more.
He knows David Hood. He's got it.
he's got he's got all the connections.
Yeah, David Hood has the bat phone, as we
right.
call it. He's got the direct line to Dabo. So
That's right. Yeah. So
but yeah, make sure you guys check his work out. It's been really great working with him this week. I hope to have him on, more and do some more things in the future. Really great guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just realized you didn't give your score prediction.
Yeah, I'll give my score prediction now. So I'm pretty much in it's funny because I always write my score prediction down because I don't want ever, I don't know. Maybe there's people out there that are like, oh, they're just doing around the same score. I legit write it down before the show starts every time. And somehow, Jordan, me and you are like always super close when it comes to our score prediction. I don't think we're very off too many times. But, I do think that Clemson will get the job done this Saturday. I think Clemson is riding a high. I mean, after that Miami loss, Clemson kind of turned a corner heading into the Notre Dame game, right? We kind of turned a corner. You saw kind of an attitude shift, if you will, for this team. And Tyler Brown actually talked about it a little bit on that podcast that Ryan mentioned with Eric McLean and Kelly Gramlich. What a well-spoken dude, a humble dude, man. It's so cool to I guess be a fan and kind of, understand how he feels as a fan and then imagine how he feels getting to play for, the childhood team that he grew up, loving. That's so cool to me. But he talked about it. There was a shift. Dabo came in the building and challenged literally everyone that even touches the Clemson football program, whether it be support staff, coaches, or players, were all challenged that they weren't doing enough. And whatever they were doing wasn't working and they needed to change it. Essentially was kind of what he said. So you can definitely see the attitude shift. You can definitely see this Clemson team playing with a lot more hunger. This defense is absolutely playing outside of its mind for a couple weeks in a row now. The offense, played really well last week against Georgia Tech. And, let's see if we can piece a few more of these together. Let's see if we can rattle off 4 or 5 wins to end the season and really head into the offseason with some momentum, because I think that's important. Specifically, kind of what Ryan was talking about at the end, right before he hopped off. This offensive line, man, there's got to be some guys that put together a few games in a row where they play well. Not this, I play great this week, I'm terrible the next week, I'm okay the following week. I really want to see this offensive line kind of start putting it together a little bit more, being a little bit more consistent. But I really think the story of the day will be the defense, and I think the Clemson offense does enough to get the job done. I'm going with a score of Clemson 35, North Carolina 24. So I am just hitting the over as far as the Vegas number goes. For the over-under of the game. And then I'm also picking Clemson to cover the 7.5.
Yes, I think we all picked Clemson to score 35. I mean, that feels about right? I mean, I think
it does.
This Clemson offense, we as they've taken some steps forward the last couple of weeks, but they're facing a pretty mediocre defense. But you still have to kind of bake in, does some of the things we've seen from earlier in the season, do they reemerge, or do we turn the ball over again? So you can't feel confident that this team gets into the 40s against really any kind of Power 5 defense. And even last week they had help from the defense with that pick 6 to get to 42.
Right.
So it's just this North Carolina defense is maybe a little bit better than Georgia Tech's. Definitely more talented. So I think that they'll be able to create maybe some more havoc plays, maybe some more pressures, maybe a couple more tackles for loss. and that'll be the difference in Clemson getting into the 40s. But I think all three of us picked 35. That just feels like the right number, and we were kind of varying on how much North Carolina scores because again, this is an explosive North Carolina offense, and that's obviously the thing that coming in this game is going to have the full attention of the Clemson defense because this is a really damn good offense and probably the best you've seen. I mean, Florida State's is really good, but we've seen throughout the year they've kind of been up and down. I think North Carolina's offense has been pretty much. They've scored on pretty much everybody. It's just their defense has let them down mostly in their losses.
You usually never have to worry about North Carolina scoring. It's always just about how many points their defense is going to give up. So and that's why I say I could see Clemson maybe getting into the 40s on this defense, but I think that would take maybe some turnovers in North Carolina territory, short field type situation. Maybe a pick six or something like that. I think if something like that happens, you could certainly see this Clemson team get into the 40s. But I just think it would take some help from that defense that we have. Which, if they come out, playing their game, they could absolutely bait Drake May into some turnovers. They could force some turnovers for sure, and They've definitely done it, in spades these past 2 weeks. You mentioned that we're finally even on the season when it comes to the turnover margin. So hopefully we can get into the plus side of it this weekend against this North Carolina team coming to town.
Absolutely. This is also going to be it's going to be a nice recruiting weekend, for this team as well. It's important. Some key targets. I think probably the biggest being interior offensive lineman Andrew Dennis, former Michigan State decommit. Clemson has kind of zeroed in on him. Clemson has been trying to round out this offensive line class for this 2024 cycle. Missed on a lot of their early targets. And still currently only have one offensive lineman committed, so they're trying to hit those numbers. Still after Faber Edwin and a couple of other guys as well. But I think 4-star. I think that Andrew Dennis is probably the biggest fish on the board right now, and I think a win, well, not just a win, but a really strong weekend overall in Death Valley would go a long way as far as kind of getting their foot in the door on that one. Yeah. Beyond that, do you have anything? Else before we kind of talk? Hang out with the chat for a little bit.
No, I mean, no, not really. Just mention that Tyler Brown interview. I encourage you guys to go watch it. It's really cool to see, what kind of guy he is, and just hear him talk about his upbringing and what makes him who he is, and what he wants to do after football is over. He mentioned maybe being a coach or something like that. So it's really cool. It's cool to hear a perspective of a former Clemson fan, now a Clemson player, living out his literal dream. And you can see the excitement on his face when he's kind of talking about it. And I'm sure his dad is, dying on every play in the stands every Saturday, which is just a super cool thing. Hopefully we get a little bit more healthy this week. Barrett Carter, hopefully we see him come back with that ankle sprain that he's got going on. We could definitely use him. We'd be in a whole lot better shape if Barrett Carter's on the field on Saturday. No hate to Woodaz and those other guys, but we need Barrett Carter on the field this Saturday. And then just hope everybody stays healthy. Shout out to Sage Enos tearing his ACL. That's really unfortunate injury. Hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and bounces back, this summer, this offseason, and kind of hopefully no lasting effects. We've seen ACLs affect guys in a number of different ways. Some guys bounce back and, they're the same or maybe even better. And then other guys never quite look the same as they did before. So shout out to him. Wish him a speedy recovery, and that's really all I had. Let's turn it over to the chat section, man. We got 30 Muldoons hanging out with us right now.
Indeed, we do. Indeed, we do. On the subject of Sage, John Sarin gets in. He says maybe there is some surprise with Josh Sapp now taking tight end 2 snaps that lead to bigger plays. Maybe. I mean, I've been a Josh Sapp guy for a while. I was really excited to see him make some plays. That touchdown catch over the middle, last Saturday was kind of a flash of kind of his physical talents and ability. So I'm excited to see him more. Sage Ennis obviously was invaluable to this team especially in the blocking game, and he was starting to emerge as a pass catching option. So that's going to be difficult. But I still want to see Jake Brenningstool get involved in the passing game. It feels like hasn't been quite as involved as recently, but he did catch that touchdown pass, so that was good to see. They're using him. They haven't forgot about him when they get into the red zone, so that's good. But man, this is a really talented tight end room, and now we're at the point where a lot of the young guys, especially the freshmen that were in red shirt, the red shirt camp, get to play more, and we're starting to see those guys. You saw Olsen Pat Henry get in the game. I think he's a guy that's going to be a really, really good player. He's in that mold of, he's almost built like a receiver, with his athleticism. He was a really, really good receiving weapon in high school. I think he's going to be special. I thought he had a chance to maybe catch a touchdown pass. If he kind of worked back to the ball a little bit in the end zone, but I think he's going to be really good as well. So I'm excited to see him play some more. But yeah, John, with Sage being out, it's obviously that sucks, and that's a blow to this team. But there's also presents the opportunity to see some of the younger tight ends play like Josh Sapp and Olsen Pat Henry. D-Rock Irish, one of our resident Notre Dame fans, checks in from time to time. He says, "Go Clemson! Good to see you, man." The Irish have they welcome Wake Forest this week. I think Sam Hartman getting to play against his old team, so that's going to be interesting. For the storylines, I don't think the game is going to be very interesting. I think Notre Dame wins.
No, Notre Dame's going to blow them out. It's not going to be close. Sam Hartman's going to have a field day with his old alma mater there, but it will be. It's a cool storyline to talk about, right? First time Sam playing, his former team, but I don't see Sam showing them any mercy. He may show them love before and after the game, but during that game, he's gonna try to put up as many points as he can.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for them. I know there's been a lot of unrest, with the offensive situation, but Wake Forest is not a very good team, right? And kind of figure some things out.
That's right.
So I'll be interested to see. They're coming off a bye week, so that'll be interesting. For Marcus Freeman and co. John asks, on the subject of Andrew Dennis, he says, doesn't Dennis spend most of his time with the coaches tomorrow? That's better than Saturday. I mean, absolutely, yeah. I believe he's coming in early tomorrow. He's going to spend a day with the coaches, then go to the game Saturday, spend some more time with the coaches afterward, and get to see the locker room. And he gets to, it's not just spending time with the coaches. He gets time to spend time with some of the players as well, because they Clemson, they love to have their players involved. Whether they're in the class or they're in the current recruiting class or they're on the team already, and they typically like to assign student mentor, player mentors and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for Dennis to see the campus, kind of see what Clemson's all about, because he hasn't been very often. I think he's he came for an unofficial to get his offer, and that was about it. I think that this will be the second time he's been on campus, and he really gets to see the program and everything, and be there for the game. So that's it's a good opportunity for Clemson there.
Hey, did you hear about the dinner in the Valley? that they did with recruits. I think it was last Saturday.
Yeah, I did.
That was kind of interesting. They put like old games up on the big jumbotron there, and they had a clear tent so you could see all the lights in the stadium, and they had dinner right there on the 40-yard line or whatever it was. It's pretty cool. I thought it was a cool story. I'd pay quite a bit of money to be able to eat dinner on Death Valley's field right there.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's never had anything like that. I mean, like I had a it wasn't like my freshman year. I mean, like during orientation, we took our big like class photo on that, but we didn't. Obviously, there was no food, so that's about the closest thing I've had to that.
Yeah,
but that would be really dope. Steel Gamble, thank you for the super chat. He sent that. He's actually sent this a while ago. So, thank you for the $5. He asked, "You guys think we'll be ranked again if we play well and cover the spread?" Steel Gamble, I actually think so. I think based on some of the analytics and from what I've seemed to gather, I think the college football playoff committee has Clemson pretty close outside of the top 25. So a win over North Carolina, I think would, and especially a convincing win would be pretty favorable for them in the metrics. I think Clemson isn't as far away from being ranked as you think. So maybe I think maybe even just a win maybe you see Clemson ranked. They won't jump into the top 20 or anything, but maybe they'll be like 25th or something. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to say that for sure, but I think there's a possibility for that.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you, Steel Gamble, man. You're always in here supporting the channel, man. We really do appreciate you. You're a real one, dude. So thank you very much.
Let's see. Michael Forster gets in and says, "How many wins get you in the playoffs next year? 11-1 or 10-2?" Predict only 2 out of ACC next year. Oh yeah, okay. I see what you're asking. I think 10-2 with an ACC championship will get you in the 12-team playoff. Obviously, that's purely speculative, and obviously, we're all dealing with incomplete data there, and you would need some circumstances, and who won what conference, and who's the at large, and who's the conference runners up, because that can make things tricky. But if you go honestly, as long as you win your conference,
you're good.
You're pretty much good. You're a Power 5 team. I know in the 6 automatic bids are reserved for the top 6 conference champions, and so unless 2 Group of 5 conference champions are ranked ahead of you, which is
doubtful,
pretty much impossible, unless something crazy happens. And as long as you win the ACC, you win
the ACC, you're in. Regardless, you're going to be in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you could see some 3-loss teams in the right scenario in a 12-team playoff. I really do, man. Like, and again, we don't know. We don't know what the precedent is going to be for that. Who knows? What that's going to kind of look like. But it wouldn't surprise me to see a 3-loss team in the 12-team playoff.
No, it wouldn't, and I think you'll see it some, but
yeah, you'll see it.
Any more than that, it'd be hard to see. But especially considering I think a 3-loss team would almost certainly have to be a conference champion. I don't think they would be an at-large bid.
Yeah.
But let's see what else you guys are talking about. StreamYard is being awful to me today.
Let's see.
You can click on one because I can't even scroll right now.
I got you. This one's pretty funny. He said, Steel Gamble said, "What's up with Trump going to the Palmetto Bowl?" I don't know. Is that a real thing? Is he really going to the Palmetto Bowl?
There's been rumors, and I think some Gamecock sites have reported it. So I think so.
Trump's gonna be you gonna head to the concrete jungle over in Colombia?
I guess so. That'll be
he should have waited and came to the Superior Stadium in Death Valley, but whatever.
He wants to go to go to the capital of South Carolina. He's trying to win some.
Yeah. I should have put it together. Yeah, election stuff. Yeah, that's politician stuff.
It's they're always trying to everything they do.
Everything's an angle. There's nothing genuine. There's nothing genuine. The hard take says he's bringing more double cheeseburgers. Yeah, is he gonna treat the winning team to unlimited McDonald's again?
You know what? That would be pretty. Honestly, that'd be pretty funny. I kind of hope he does that. That'd be pretty funny.
Clemson can eat McDonald's after destroying South Carolina on their 50-yard line with Donald Trump there.
and hopefully they eat on the field.
On the field. Right
on the Gamecock logo.
Yeah.
Oh, that would.
I want them to bring them out in the silver platters again too. Just to add a little bit of class to it.
Oh my, yeah. We're. Oh man, that would be something. Let's see, what else are you guys talking about? I'm thinking about that. Yeah. Now I'm just thinking about that image.
That's
and Trump giving a speech to the winning team after a game, like that would be a sight. That would be a sight to behold.
I wouldn't doubt it. That feels like something Trump would do.
This one's interesting. Michael says Carter is coming back next year. Stars linebacker will be Woodaz, and Carter only pull out of the portal will be defensive end.
I wouldn't be mad. Mad if Carter comes back.
I wouldn't be mad. That's not off the table. I've seen varying opinions about where Barrett Carter will kind of end up in the draft. I think Jeremiah Trotter is pretty solidly in first round consideration at this point. But Carter, he's both of them have dealt with injuries at different points in the year. But I think Trotter's overall had the more productive season. He was just, I think this week or last week he was named a Butkus Award finalist, or semifinalist for the best linebacker in the country. So that's congratulations to Jeremiah. And he's the start of the year wasn't so great. He was dealing with the injury, but he's really come alive these last few weeks and looked like the guy we all thought we were getting this year. So if Carter decides to come back, I mean, he wouldn't be the first highly touted Clemson player to come back and kind of try to improve their draft stock a little bit. Yeah, that would be huge. You'll be dealing with a lot of inexperience next year if you lose both Trotter and Carter.
If you could get whatever one, but if you could get one of those dudes to come back, that would not hurt my feelings at all. It'd be a very good thing for this Clemson defense. But to your point, look, I think a lot of it is, kind of how the second half of this season has played out, because you talked about how, Trotter struggled a bit early in the season. But this second half of the season, he's really turned it on. And I think that's going to obviously bode well for his NFL draft stock heading forward. If he can maintain this level of play for a couple more weeks, he's probably going to get a pretty favorable grade back from the NFL and most likely be gone, I would assume.
Yeah.
So,
because Barrett Carter is one of the best pure athletes that I think we've seen at Clemson. Even if he's still not perfectly polished at the position, I feel like the NFL is going to look at his measurables and everything, and he's a guy that's going to test really well.
And they get enamored with guys regardless of play on the field. They get enamored with measurables. They get enamored with the combine and how dudes look, in their little spandex outfits, and they get enamored with that, man. Them NFL scouts see somebody like that and they're like, oh yeah, Yeah. Don't worry about that tape. No. We can work with this, right? So
Yeah,
they convince themselves.
But in the thing with Trotter and not Trotter, the thing with Carter is he has some pretty good tape. It has.
Oh yeah, no, he's got really good tape.
Yeah, it's not a guy that looks like he doesn't like. They're gonna like NFL scouts are gonna turn on that Florida State tape and see him covering Jaheim Bell and breaking up passes and stuff like that, and they're gonna be like,
yep,
yeah, he's good.
Yep.
So I mean, John, I think John Sarian said lowest opinion I've seen is mid-second. Yeah, I've seen anywhere from first, like mid-first, to mid-second. But that difference is a lot of money as far as that rookie contract is concerned. So that's something he'll have to decide for himself. I mean, I won't blame him if he leaves. I won't, and it'd be great if we got him back. But if you were to get one of these linebackers back, I mean, that would be huge. Saw somebody ask about. Okay, it was Still Gamble. He asked about. Good Lord, man! The season's changing has done a number on my allergies.
Yeah,
coughing all week. I had to. It's been something. Yes, Antonio Williams back this week. He played well against UNC last year. Yeah, I would lean towards no. They're trying to be cautious with him. I don't think you'll see him on Saturday. But who knows? They say he's progressing, but when Dabo says stuff like that, and he's kind of. He didn't sound super optimistic just based off of how he was talking. I wouldn't expect to see him.
Yeah, no, I don't. Honestly, I don't expect to see him the rest of the season, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean maybe a bowl game, but I'm not super optimistic about seeing him again in the regular season. Big Mick says Clemson is fine at defensive end. Speed will be the theme of the West defense. I think in a way you're right. Like I don't think the room will be lacking talent or athleticism going into next year, but you will be lacking a ton of experience, and I think that's. I think in the age of college football right now, I think it would be kind of a dereliction of duty to just completely ignore it and go in with the guys you got. I think Clemson, and from all indications, I think Clemson is going to look for a good, maybe graduate type player at defensive end, maybe a multi-year starter that can give you some solid play at defensive end. It doesn't have to be a Jared Verse or something like that, but
yeah,
somebody that can give you quality starting minutes and be an impact player. Because if you go to next year, there's not beyond TJ Parker, you don't have anybody that
no proven guys.
Yeah, no proven guys,
and you got a lack of depth, right? You don't these new guys, these young freshmen that are going to be coming in. Who knows how ready they will be?
Right.
A guy like TJ Parker don't come along very often, where it's just a
right.
day one automatic. Like this dude's look like he's been in this defense for his entire life. That's not very often that happens. So I think we definitely are going to have a depth issue. So that may need to be addressed in the portal for sure.
Yeah, unless you move maybe your defense, unless maybe that's an opportunity to slide Peter Woods outside. But I mean. There are ways to kind of maybe get around it by moving guys around, but if you don't want to move guys around, I think you have to go get at least one portal defensive end. Because I'm not super high on what's left in this room as far as giving you the kind of the quality play that you need right now. I think David Ojebwe, AJ Hoffler, those guys are young and talented and going to be good players, but we just haven't seen it. Maybe you slide Stephylan Green is kind of undersized, but I love Stephylan Green, and I think he could play. I think he could play defensive end, but again, that would be moving somebody. The freshman that'll be coming in, assuming they sign, Darian Mayo, Adam Kisai, those are good talented players as well, but they're freshmen, they're true freshmen. And so unless you feel confident that Cade Denhoff or Zaire Patterson, I mean, they're going to be the older guys in the room. Unless you're confident that those guys are going to take a jump, I think you have to go get at least one guy in the portal just to kind of give you some reassurance there as far as depth and
I mean, those dudes have been in the program for 3 years, so why would we expect that this offseason is going to be any different than the previous off seasons when they have not seemed to develop too terribly much?
Yeah. Let's see. The hard take asks a good question. Will Sammy Brown be ready to go year one? I think that's the question because as talented as Sammy is, I mean, he's still a guy and something that's been noted by, recruiting analysts, scouts, he's a guy that's still, kind of figuring out the position when you watch him play. He's a tremendous athlete that, is still fine tuning the nuances and of playing linebacker. So it's all about how quickly he comes in. It's great that he'll be an early enrollee, and kind of get that experience. And I think it's a good test for Wes Goodwin as a developer. I think he's shown a lot of promise so far as guys, his linebackers being ready to play. So, but I think this is a great opportunity. And if Sammy can come in and start, I think Sammy's going to play. He's not going to be a red shirt. I would be surprised if he was a red shirt candidate, just given his physical abilities and talent. He's a guy that you have to play and get on the field in some capacity. So, I think that's going to be a really great question. But I'm high on Sammy's ceiling is pretty exciting, and he could be a really, really, really good player.
Yeah, he'll definitely play. How ready he'll be, who knows? Remains to be seen. Some guys pick it up super fast, and then other guys struggle. So, physically, I think he'll be okay. But it's all about the mental side of that game. It's a big transition.
Yeah. John and the hard take, I'll pull up John, but they asked a good question. Not Devontae Capehart. Does Capehart come back? He's made some good plays this year, treating guys like rag dolls. Yeah. The light has really come on the second half of the year.
He's a beast, man. He's a beast. Yeah. If we can keep him healthy, man, that dude's a problem.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, he's technically draft eligible after this year. I would be surprised if he would go and test the waters.
I don't think he's going.
But I think he's in a good position to play a lot more next year. Maybe with Peter Woods and Vic Burley still being, we haven't seen Vic Burley obviously because he's been hurt. So I think that could be something that is kind of determined in spring. But I think for now, I would say I would lean yes, but it wouldn't surprise me if he were to, maybe enter the portal and do a place where he would get more minutes. I mean, which would be disappointing, but I wouldn't blame him either. But with how talented Clemson's defensive tackle room is currently, it's kind of hard not to think, you lose a guy or two this offseason.
Yeah. We would be okay though.
We'd be okay. But I'm a huge Devontae Capehart fan. I mean, he's just so physically gifted, and
I mean, it's the sheer size of the dude is just a problem, and if he can ever put together a full healthy season, I think he's the type of dude that could, increase his draft stock quite a bit if he could put together a full season, where he's just healthy and doing it. I mean, because you see him on the field. When he's healthy and on the field, I mean, you see what he's capable of. Offensive line don't want any part of Devontae Capehart, man. They don't want to block that dude. So hopefully we can hang on to him, and hopefully he puts together a full season next year, and is a huge part of our run defense.
Absolutely. Big mentions Caden Story. Yeah, he's a guy that's kind of been, but kind of lost in the rotation right now. I don't know. He's a guy that was kind of a late addition to his class. He was a Nick Eason guy. He had been previously committed to Auburn, and when Nick Eason took the defensive tackle coach job, followed him over into Clemson's class. I don't know. He's a guy that's just. I think he's one of those guys that it's going to take some time for him. He's just not. He didn't come in as physically ready to go as some of the other guys in his class, and especially not some of these the freshmen that have come in this class. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I liked him, coming out, but he's just with how talented this defensive tackle room is. I mean, some guys are kind of going to be, lost in the rotation, and he's not even really in the rotation, but kind of lost just because there's only so many snaps to go around. I think he's played some, he's played sparingly at in some games, but he's not a guy that's quite ready to go right now. John asked a great question. Will the show take next Thursday as a holiday? Probably. I wouldn't expect to have a show on Thursday. We can obviously. I do. It would feel wrong not to put together some sort of South Carolina preview. So, me and you we'll talk about that. And maybe try to see if we can get a show maybe earlier, or maybe even if Friday would work, but sometime during the week. That probably not Thursday.
We'll figure something out. We'll either do something earlier in the week, guys, or we'll do something on Friday or something like that. But don't worry, we'll have something. It won't be the normally regularly scheduled, Thursday 7 p.m. show. Just stay tuned. Me or Jordan will post something in the community tab, letting you guys know, the new date and time for the show. But we'll definitely be doing a South Carolina preview. We're not missing that. We'll figure out another time to do it.
Do you remember what did we do last year? Because
I don't remember what we did last year.
We must have done like a Wednesday or Tuesday or maybe a Friday show.
I'd have to go back and look and see what we did, but I'm pretty sure we did a show. But I don't know.
That's a good question. All right, a couple more before we get on out of here.
Yep.
Hustler Inc. I love that name. He says, he asked, do you think Troy Stellato, Bo Collins, Adam Randall, or Will Shipley enter the transfer portal? Okay. I don't like to speculate on guys training. I know I kind of sort of did earlier, but I don't like to do that. Those four, I think in terms of likelihood, I would be surprised if I don't think it doesn't feel like Will Shipley would enter the transfer portal. It
doesn't feel like it, but the more I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson loses either Will Shipley or Phil Maffa. Not necessarily to the NFL draft, because I think both of them have more to prove before they make that leap to the NFL. But it would not surprise me to see either Will Shipley or Phil Maffa enter the portal and maybe go try to be a featured back somewhere else without having to split carries with another guy. That would not surprise me. I hope it doesn't happen, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, that's an interesting four. Troy Stellato, I'd like to say no, just because we're finally seeing him get on the field and make some plays, and he's kind of in the rotation. I think he has an opportunity to be a bigger part of the offense next year.
Yeah.
Bo Collins, I don't know. I think Bo Collins is your leading receiver right now. I mean, it's not like he's not getting opportunities. I just, maybe he's not, who knows? Maybe he doesn't feel, obviously he came in with DJ and obviously he hasn't, the offense hasn't been as explosive as maybe, we had hoped, the last few years. So I don't know, but that just, it would be surprising to see your leading receiver hit the transfer portal, because I don't think it's like he's super in danger of losing snaps. Like I think the staff is high on him and wants him involved in the offense. So that would be kind of surprising. Adam Randall is interesting. It wouldn't. Again, I don't like speculating on stuff like this, but it wouldn't surprise me. It just seems like he hasn't been able to kind of get right. I see John mentioned, so the 2024 guys that are coming in.
That's another good point.
Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. I mean, that's something to consider. Those guys are really, really talented and absolutely have an opportunity to play early. I don't know. I think it would make sense for Adam Randall to feel a little bit, because he's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit as far as the rotation is concerned. And he hasn't been getting the targets. But Bo Collins has been, Clemson's overall, he's been Clemson's best receiver since he's been.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Bo thinks about it, but honestly, I don't see why he would at this point. Like, I don't think there's any reason for him to be looking to go somewhere else. He gets plenty of targets. He's, as you mentioned, he's the leading receiver. Some of the other guys, maybe, especially if, Wesco and Moore come in and they're, as advertised and they look like they're going to play early, you might see a couple in that wide receiver room leave in the spring,
Yeah, if they work their way up the depth, and I think this is a conversation to have in spring, because that's when you see more of the heavy transfer, departures happen. Guys figure out, have an idea of where they sit, where they stand in the depth chart, and then decide to go, someplace else. So, but I don't want to speculate on too much of that. But that's a good question, Hustler Inc. I mean, it's something to consider. I mean, you're going to lose. It happens every year. That's the reality of college football now. You're going to lose somebody.
Oh yeah,
and you're going to lose quite a few.
And we'll have plenty of time to talk about all that stuff. When the games are not being played, we'll be talking about transfer portal quite a bit this offseason, I would assume.
Hard take. I guess we'll end it on this one. I've heard a lot of fans kind of have questions about Noble Johnson. I'm not. I don't want to say too much, but I'm not feeling. I'm not feeling great about him being with the team next year. But
yeah.
I'll leave it at that. But Noble is a really talented player. I kind of thought that there was the possibility that he would maybe get in the rotation early, but I'm not really sure what's going on there as far as the lack of snaps. He got in on special teams and against Georgia Tech, I believe it was Georgia Tech, and got a block in the back penalty, so that wasn't great. I don't know. It just, for whatever reason, he's not getting on the field, even in some of these blowouts, and that's kind of a red flag to me.
Yeah, that's telling. That's telling. When guys aren't playing in blowouts, that's always telling.
So, but we'll see. I mean, Noble is he's a really talented kid. Comes from, he was at a really good high school. Well coached. His trainer and his personal coach, is one of the best in Texas.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. All right. I think that'll do it.
Yeah, man. I think that'll wrap up the show. What a show! What a 2 weeks! What a 2 weeks it's been as a Clemson Tiger, man. Let me tell you what a turnaround this team has done. It's crazy to think where we were just 2 short weeks ago. Dabo yelling at the fans yelling at Dabo. He's a bandwagon, she's a bandwagon, they're a bandwagon, and here we are. Winning cures all. The statement is very true and very real. And we definitely have a renewed perspective. Here we are setting 2 good wins in the books. Hopefully, we can continue that, man. I want to see this Clemson Tiger team come out and continue to grow, continue to progress this season because while the aspirations that we had at the beginning of the season are over, I'm not looking to be a 7-5 team.
Me neither.
I would like to see them win out and become a 9-3 team. That would be just fine with me. Or 9-4 team, excuse me, 9-4. But we'll see how it goes. We'll big game against North Carolina this weekend. Explosive offense, a team that Clemson, cannot take lightly. Not that Clemson could take any team lightly at this point, but hopefully we see the same momentum. We will. All of you guys in the chat, we still got 22 people in here hanging out with us. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for coming in, commenting, hanging out with us. Thank you for our one super chat tonight. Steele Gamble, always in here, always supporting the show. You're a real one, man. We really do appreciate it. We will be here this Saturday, immediately following the North Carolina game, probably somewhere around, 7 p.m., 7:15, depending on when the game ends. We'll be right here for a breakdown, post-game, live reaction. Don't miss it. But until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.